So, hello everyone. Yes, we have another try and fly finally, and that is because I got myself a new aircraft. And here it is. It's the Carenado Saab 340, the Saab Fairchild SF 340, and it's in the colors of the Australian Regional Express Rex. And wow, isn't it a beauty? Now the thing is, Carenado, when they do something like that, they usually do a superb job here when it comes to all the visuals outside and also inside, as we're going to see in a moment in the cockpit. And I got myself that aircraft shortly after it came out, and the reason is that I really like the Saab, and I like it because I have it in X-Plane 11. In X-Plane 11, Leading Edge Simulations has created a study level simulation of the Saab 340, and yeah, it's also available for X-Plane 10 as well as 11. And as I say, it's study level, so that means it is a rather complex beast, and there's also things that can go wrong if you don't do it correctly. Now, if you're expecting that kind of realism and study level here, I'll have to disappoint you. This is a Carenado aircraft. So what Carenado usually does is they do a pretty okay rendition of what an aircraft like this here should fly like and should behave. They do a superb job when it comes to all the graphical stuff, and they have sort of a decent implementation of the flight models and all the rest, but you cannot expect over accurate simulations of systems and stuff. That's not what Carenado aircraft are for, which also, unless you're someone who really wants to be as realistic as possible, is actually not a bad thing, because you can sit in this aircraft, you do not have to study tons and tons of documentation in order to figure out how this bird flies. You can actually sit in there, and if you have flown larger Carenado aircraft before, you should have no issues with this one here. Yeah, so having said that, let's have a look at the cockpit. So here we are. This is the Saab 340 virtual cockpit. And they do actually have a cabin as well. Let me quickly warp you in there and have a look. Also, the cabin has been pretty accurately and pretty nicely rendered. So I do have my love-hate relationship with Carenado, because sometimes the quality and especially the reaction on issues is not what I would expect from a company and add-ons and add-on makers, but when it comes to the visuals and the superbness of this graphical job here and of the modeling, the 3D modeling, this is absolutely fantastic, and it's really looking great. And I had a very, very, very quick test dash here with this aircraft, and I have to tell you, it was quite okay. You can't compare it, as I say, with the leading edge simulation thing, and it behaved somewhat differently in some aspects from what I know in the X-Plane 11 version of the Saab. But as I say, it is simplified, and it helps actually to get accustomed and familiar with this aircraft pretty quickly. So let's go back to the virtual cockpit. Now this is a turboprop sort of two-engine, and so what I've done is I've done quite a bit of tweaking around here with my axis, trying to get this right. I think there is still a little problem, and that is I can't get into the beta range. So I think I need to switch the switches. But what you can do actually is you can use F2. Just stick on the F2, and that will bring you into the reverse sort of beta range. Otherwise, this is actually the axis, okay? And that's the, I think it's the prop axis. Yeah, it's the prop axis here. And again, there is a position, if we go down here, there is a position called fuel off, and I haven't got any switches yet for that. So what I do is I use actually Control F2, Steuerung F2, and that brings the levers down into the fuel off position, and in that case the engines would stop. Okay, and that's also the position of all the levers that we should have. The other thing you should do is you should engage the gust lock. Okay, the gust lock stays on until we are ready to take off. And in order to move the gust lock forward or backward, you have to do the gust lock release, and then you can click here and you will open or close the gust lock. Okay, this is much easier actually as it is in Explain, because in Explain I had to program some keys in order to get this combination right, because I could either press here but then I couldn't move the gust lock, or vice versa. It was a little bit strangely implemented, so not the most intuitive, but here it's really pretty simple. First click on the gust lock release and then you can move the gust lock. So we do have the flaps lever here, and obviously just the normal thing. And yeah, let's look around a little bit what is where. So the autopilot, the whole section of autopilot, course heading, and also the mode for the navigation display, all that is here. But you can also call this up with Shift 2. Shift 2 brings you Shift 1 brings you actually your navigation displays, the two, the EHSI and the EADI or something like that, whatever they're called. Then Shift 2 will bring you all the autopilot and the display settings here, and everything has to do with autopilot. The altitude selection, the modes, and the yaw damper and autopilot disengage or engage buttons, and so on. Okay, so that's Shift 2. Shift 3 will bring you the FMC. They've actually built in their standard Carenado FMC, which is in no way fully realistic, but it actually gives you zits and stars. And if I understand correctly, you can actually update with Navigraph. So if you have Navigraph subscription, you can use the all Carenado aircraft Navigraph option, and it will actually update your zits and stars accordingly. So we're going to use this in a moment to program our route. This is the navigation display, the multifunction display, I think it's called MFD. Not everything that you see here is coded, and I haven't actually coded yet the range buttons. So it's okay. I'm going to show you in a moment how that looks like. Shift F5 gives you another indication where what displays can be opened. So this is the EFIS, they call that here MFD, DCP, and no matter whether you click DCP, MSP, CHP, VRC, AP or FMC, well, FMC is different, but any of these here will actually open this combi thing of one display. Yeah, there are some other windows. This is the service door open, close, passenger door open, close, tow car, and static elements. We have actually a tow car at the moment here in front. Let me show you. I thought there was a tow car in front, but apparently it's gone now. Somehow I must have removed it. Interesting. When you activate the park brake, somehow I've managed to get rid of the park brake, so then you also lose all this here stuff. Okay, but you can turn it off like this as well. You can do virtual cockpit windows kind of effects. I haven't really seen them. Not sure if I need something turned on, or they're not really very strong. They don't seem to do anything with the frame, so I'm okay with it. Yeah, and passenger and service door, when you actually click here, The service door, by the way, is where the luggage goes in this aircraft. So, and yeah, let's put away this stuff. Okay, so that's that. And then you also have an interesting thing here. You can bring it into cold and dark, which we are actually at the moment in. This is the cold and dark setup. Done. But you can also bring it into systems, avionics, parking, brake, and beacon. And for that, actually, let's go here into the cockpit and call that up. Done. And then you get into this state. So there are several levels of startup that you can choose, including one that is ready for takeoff. Which will actually start up the engines. Yeah, and I have to say that using this mode actually is a far more realistic way of starting the engines, because I tried before using the starter button at the top display, and the engines came like instantaneously. So I wasn't really very fussed when I saw this, but if you use this function, the startup actually is quite realistic, because it kind of spools up the engine and we are ready to go. Okay, but that's not what I wanted to show you, really. So what we're going to do is I'm going to put us into the systems mode. Or maybe I should put ourselves first into cold and dark. Okay, so we're now in cold and dark, Shift 7. Now put ourselves into the systems mode. Okay. And one thing you should do is you should turn on the external power. Now, again, this is a simplification a la Carenado. There is no external power push card or anything like that. If you have the parking brake set, you turn the switch on, you have automatically external power no matter what. Okay, so simplification works okay, and our switches are now in their respective positions. I have actually my hardware, so I'm going to use my hardware here for the moment. Right, avionics, essential avionics I turn on as well, and here you see now the top panel, which is actually quite big, and there are loads and loads and loads of switches. Actually, most of these switches, if not even all of them, are coded. If they do a lot, usually with Carenado, not every button is actually doing a lot of things, but it is a nice touch that they code them so that you at least have the impression of being able to run through realistic procedures, even if they don't are fully realistic, if you know what I mean. So that's not a critique, that's just, I'm just stating a fact here, and that's okay, that's fine with me. It looks nice, as I said before. Graphically this is absolutely superb. I'm trying to remember what I need to do. So we have the inverters on here already. So they have the avionics on. We have the bus tie is in automatic mode anyway. We have the left and right generators on. I'm pretty sure that they should be turned off. You use, by the way, left and right mouse key to get forward and backwards. So the switching mechanics is actually quite good. It's quite intuitive. Other than with the Fokker 50 that came out from Carenado the last time, so far I haven't actually found one switch that was somewhat weird. Not like the Fokker 50, where I had a lot of weird switches and weird logic between left and right switching and mouse, and so it was really confusing the way they've done it in the Fokker 50. So whoever's done this here did a good job, because it is intuitive, it works the way you would expect it, and there's no ambiguity in how you switch things on or off. Yeah, you get used to it very, very quickly. So quite like that one. Now I'm going to turn on the beacon. So, all right, and let's look around a bit more. Now, obviously we have the gust lock on, therefore these things won't move. Even if you move your joystick, when you have the gust lock on, everything is blocked. Okay, that's what it is for, gust lock. If you want to undo it, click here, and now, as you can see, you can actually move the controls. Right, this is the MFD. You can click at the top here and you get the 2D window open. And what we can do now is, since we have external power and the avionics is on, we can actually call up the FMC. I really thought that clicking here would bring this up. Obviously it doesn't, so Shift 3 will bring you that. You use the power on. So it looks like there is no click spot for the FMC. That's a small oversight. I mean, if you do this for all the other windows, I kind of would expect, I kind of would expect that you would have that for the other one as well, but in this case they don't. So Shift 3 will bring up the FMC. Maybe I find the click spot, maybe it's well hidden, I don't know. Let me see. If we're no closer, no. But anyway, so press accept, and don't expect a really deep down FMC. This is a simple standard Carenado. Meanwhile, they do this in a lot of aircraft in the recent past. It's always the same kind of universal FMC. It's okay, it does the job, but don't expect to have anything like realistic stuff further down. Okay, this is good to enter a flight plan. Is a little bit quirky at the beginning, but you get used to it very quickly. Isn't that much options anyway, so after a very short time you actually get used to it, and you're fine with it. So first thing you do is you click here so that the cursor comes on, and we're going to fly from Echo Delta Lima Victor, which is this airport, Weze Airport. And we fly, guess what, again to Echo Delta Lima Victor. Oh, that's number one. Number two, so I have to remember now how that worked. How did that work? So, you go to, where do you go now? Nav? List? Tell you the truth? Okay. Hang on. Next. You go to next, and that brings you into the flight plan mode. Yeah, I haven't really worked with this too much yet. So you click here, you always have to activate the cursor, and now what you could normally do is you could now start entering your route. The thing is, with our special route in the try and fly, is that we are not really having any waypoints, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to enter SONEP just for trying out. Enter. So now we have EDLV and we have SONEP. If you go next again, it'll give you departures, Echo Delta Lima Victor, arrival is Echo Delta Lima Victor. It's kind of the summary. We have one waypoint, which is not enough. If you click on menu, again, this is not always the most intuitive, but in this case it's the flight plan menu. It only gives you the flight plan menu. In the real thing, menu can be different things depending on the mode you're in, but in this case you always get the flight plan menu. And here, and that's a nice thing, you can use departures and arrivals, and as far as I understand, they are Navigraph based. And if you have a recent Navigraph subscription, you will get so departure airport, we leave, we click on runway. We have a choice here, runway 09 or 27. We want 27, so you enter 2 because we always use the number here of the selection. Enter runway 27. Then we click here. It offers us all the departures. Because we fly to SONEP, we use number 2. Enter. Now, if there would be any transitions, you would enter the number of the transitions. As there is none, you press enter again, and we have our flight plan in there. And in order to cross-check this, we use Shift 4, and we can already see part of the route, which is, yep, hang on, the other way around. Yeah, and the thing is, this is not centered, and I haven't yet found out if there is a way of centering the display. This is traffic, radar, nav, norm. I haven't really found a way of centering this or something, so yeah, I'm not sure what this is here. Well, anyway, so that's part of the route based on the aircraft being down here, which is not always overly helpful, but at least we can see the route somehow. Right, click on menu again, or no, click on flight plan again. You're back in the menu page. Arrive. Yep, we know that. Runway, you don't enter. Star, you click, you choose, in this case it's SOP 2. There is no transition, so do enter. Then you click here again. So there is no approach, which is not the way it worked the last time. Yeah, so what did I do differently the last time? To tell you the truth, I don't know, because the last time we had actually approaches here, which is the ILS and all that. But yeah, Carenado aircraft being Carenado aircraft, what works the first time doesn't necessarily work the next time, apparently. So what we're going to do now, because it actually gave us a transition to, let's use the other one. Also no transition, because the last time I entered this here, just about half an hour before, I was actually presented with a transition, LAA or something, or I thought I was. And here I was able to enter actually, no, that wouldn't work. I was actually able to enter the ILS, which I think was 1, but today, probably because we don't have a runway, we don't get anything offered to us. So, and for some reason I can't enter the runway. Yeah, I knew that it wouldn't be that easy. There you go. So we're back with the flight plan. Let's see, what can we do here? Info, return. So this is our flight plan. SOP 2 LAA, SONEP SOP to LAA. So that they have done. So let's try and see if we can modify this. So let's remove, and then let's show what we're going to do now. What happens if I want to put in remat? I can't remember how that worked the other time. Remat. Ah, yeah. So this is nonsense, obviously. Altitude. The whole altitude thingy is nonsense. So at remat, I would suggest we go 2,600. We'll just enter that there. SOP 2, we are probably still at 5,000. There is no VNAV anyway, so whatever you enter here is more for your own information, not really because it is a overly realistic way of doing your flight plan, because as you can see, our flight plan looks a bit weird anyway. Alright. Yeah, so don't look at the altitudes. I'm not going to do this now for every waypoint. So how am I going to get this? Okay, let's try that again. I have no idea what is different this time around, yeah, but it is a bit frustrating. Previous, next, previous, approach plan, what's that? Approach, ED, is that actually something? No, this is actually, this is just whatever that is. It's nothing. Okay, we are back in the flight plan, approach plan. Next, previous, 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 next, and previous, yeah. Yeah. So, since we know that we want to go a particular approach, which is via remat, we are then going the ILS 27. Yeah, we're going to use this, but we have already seen some limitations, and that's just Carenado. You know, as much as I like their work, but it's this kind of half-hearted, let's call it half-hearted approach to things like this, yeah, which sometimes can be a bit of a downturner, you know. Anyway, I think I've got enough of a flight plan. Hopefully we're going to be able to follow it. And you won't see it here, by the way. Here you need to make sure that we have selected the right source, I think. And I have to try and remember where that was, because and you know, if it is actually with I have what you call it, chase plane, and the zoom is always turned off. It's also another thing that I need to figure out. So I can't remember exactly where you would switch between the nav mode taking a navigation display and the nav mode taking the here's, by the way, the weather radar. I'm pretty sure that it does not work. They might surprise me, but I don't think they have weather radar. Maybe they do, I don't know. The documentation is, how should I put it, Carenado typical, let's call it that, which is a few pages of PDFs with some pretty low quality scans. They look like faxes being sent to Carenado with a checklist or something, and they put them in as they are. Yeah, and okay, I know this aircraft from X-Plane 11, so I have not as much difficulties following some kind of procedure, but yeah, this documentation is not the kind of thing where you make wow. Okay, so that's very typical. The last 3 Carenado aircraft I got all had the same level of documentation, which isn't very much, and it is not that helpful. It doesn't really tell you how to use this plane. What is good is that they're all reliably pretty similar in the way they have been done, flight model and operation wise. So it's a simplification that helps to use these aircraft even without proper documentation. But yeah, you know, you could expect, sometimes you would expect a little bit more, but then again, it's not that bad. I don't want to start complaining also, you know, because I actually do like it here, and it's the kind of typical Carenado, and I know what I'm getting when I buy a Carenado aircraft, so I'm not really complaining anymore, because it is consistent. Let's call it that. It is actually consistent, consistently, not very much, but but consistent. So I'm fine with that. Right, let's try and get on here. So we've programmed the route at least as good as we can, and I would say, let's see if we actually do get request prepare for pushback and departure. So let's have a look if the we want a straight pushback, maximum 100. You want to start engines before pushback. Yes, we're going to start the engines before pushback. So you can't hear GSX because I have it in my speaker, in my headset. But it's okay. We're not really interested in the sounds from GSX. Yeah, he's waving. Actually, did you see his hands there? So let's try and get this aircraft started. Now, you have several options. Option number one is you try and get all these switches right. And then you kind of use to this the right engine this way. So left click is the left engine, right click is the right engine. But as I said, I didn't feel it was very realistic. We didn't have a proper spin up of the aircraft. So what I'm doing is I'm actually calling up this here and I'm saying start left engine, and that will go through all the procedures to get the engine started. And this is actually a far more realistic procedure than with the switch. With the switch, they were there like nothing. I'm not sure why that is, just the way it was. And although I've only said start one engine, yeah, that's also something I realized is it actually goes and starts them both. And actually, what we should have done, and that is something that we get easily can forget, is we actually need to move these levers into the start position. Okay, so when they were in the fuel off, they're actually not moved out of that fuel off position. So what can happen is that your engines die on you again. I had that the first time around. Yes, So, and that's it. Engines are started. And to tell you the truth, because this is not a study level aircraft, this is as valid a way of getting your engines properly started as trying to do it with the switches. It does work, you get it also with the switches, but I thought that somehow this feels a bit more realistic. Now, why when I press this I also get the right engine, I don't know. Like, I thought that the fact of having two of these would start one engine at a time, but for some reason they start just both. So that's just the way it is. So bring the levers into the max position. I don't think that I can bring them further up, or no. So there is normally another position in the real aircraft a bit further up. You usually don't use that. But in this aircraft, the max position, which is the one that we're right there now, is actually the one that your joystick, if you have hardware, will give you. Okay, so let's stop here and complete the pushback. Okay, and we go through and we finish up the setup. So we have the generators on, we turn the external power off, we're activating the bleed valves. Normally you would put them in the reset position, they would actually jump back, so they have feathered switches here in the real aircraft. That also doesn't work here, so if I put it in reset, it stays actually in the reset position, and with every click it actually cycles through. So it's okay, just put them in the auto position and everything is fine. Just check that there are no lights on, and for takeoff we would then actually put the so-called autocozen on. And have we actually got the park brake? No, we haven't got that yet. So park brake is on. To tell you the truth, I'm still... oh yeah, there it is. Okay, I keep forgetting that it's up here. Always looking down here somewhere. Alright, so let's... so are you going to... ah, yeah. I'm not sure why the strobes are on. Now they're off. So let's see. The prop heat and so on we don't need today, but the windshield, we should turn on the windshield heaters. The pitot should be on. Again, this is of almost no consequence here. Okay, this is not that they have really coded a lot of stuff, but just to be a bit more realistic. Okay, so looks like the guys are gone. So they are, and that means we can actually begin the taxiing. Yeah. In X-Plane we have this great X checklist plugin which gives us an interactive checklist to be displayed inside here in the virtual cockpit, and partially automatic if it has been programmed like that. We don't have that here, so I'm kind of intuitively... Oh, there he is. Alright. I almost started now. So let's do some preparatory things anyway. I'm going to put this here on 5000. This is the altitude, okay? And I am here is where you can change your heading and your course. I'm going to use hardware for that, okay? It's all the basic FSX prepared commands that can be used, so there's no special implementation needed. My hardware works actually with the standard FSX setup. So I'm going to put the heading, the heading, yes, on 272. So let's see that, 272, like this. The altitude does not work, so whatever they have done doesn't work with the standard FSX. So altitude I need to actually change manually. I might find a way to do this differently, but I haven't got time yet to do special programming for this aircraft. So let's look through some other things. So this is the CTOT, which is some kind, it's not an auto throttle. It is actually something that would regulate, I think, how the props, so when you put your throttle levers into the, I think it's here in this, on this position, or is it this position? I'm not sure. And this looks actually a bit odd here with the gust lock, because when I put the throttle levers forward, they actually blend into this, so this is not 100% right. Anyway, if you have the throttle levers in a certain position and the CTOT is in the on position, it would try and kind of regulate the props, and you can also activate a prop sync if it's syncing anything. Is your and my guess. I don't know. We shall see. Maybe we can see this somehow. Not that we really need it anyway. Here's all the anti-skid. The anti-skid is actually off, so we're going to turn it on. The hydraulic pump is in automatic mode, which should be okay. We see that we have enough hydraulic power and quantity, so that looks fine. This then we have here pitch and yaw and so on, but for some reason we can't yet see anything happening here. Let's put the flaps into this position in the 7 as a first position. Basically, here's our nose gear, and yeah, so that's that. That's this side. That's the oxygen, in case we need oxygen, and yeah, that's that. I think we've checked up here. There's no lights, no warning lights, so basically all standard. Oh yeah, let's put on the passenger lights. So it's very simple. You do not really have to worry a lot about setting up this aircraft. So it's not study level. It will not bite you in the backside if for some reason you've got it wrong. Right, let's turn on the taxi light. I use a switch for that, standard FSX taxi light command, and I'm going to put myself into this position here, or into the taxi position. Now I'm releasing the park brake, and I'm going to, yeah, and off we go. Yeah, and it taxis and steers really nicely. No strange things like in X-Plane. In X-Plane, steering on the ground is a nightmare. Very often, more often than not, in X-Plane, steering on the ground is a real pain in the butt. Especially if you have a joystick with a slightly older axis, and when things are a little bit jittery, it is all over the place. But here in Prepared and FSX, even with that same axis here on my Extreme 3D, which is at least 6, 7, 8 years old, I'm not sure, still doing me a good job apart from the Z axis. But as you can see in Prepared, you can actually create a so-called null zone, and for whatever reasons Lamina is not giving us a null zone on that axis. It doesn't even allow us to do any kind of modifications. There is probably a way, but it is so hidden down there that I haven't discovered it yet, so I don't know. So, is everything alright here? Yeah. Okay. So what we also can do is we can set up some frequencies here. So first of all, on nav1 I'm going to put in 110.70. Oops. Again, I use my hardware. It's all standard FSX, which is a good thing because it means I don't have to do a lot of programming and setting up of stuff and half of it not working. The only thing that's not working out of the box is the altitude selector up there, but that is not so bad. That's survivable. All the rest is actually working out of the box. The kind of hardware like Saitek hardware that you may have, or VRInsight hardware that you may connect here, is working immediately with it. No problem. No big programming necessary. Right, so 110.7 is our RLS, and if we go to nav2, I'm going to put on 115.5 because that is our DME, or should be our DME here, readout, and I'm going to make this disappear for better reading. Here we can see now our route, our usual, with all this dirt effect here. And I would have thought that we should see something when I move the controls, but yeah, somehow we probably have to do it like this. Looking good. So let's go back in. And so, strobes on, lights on. Let me see. Swing lights, logo, strobes, nav. Okay, switches have worked. I seem to have had the lights on, it looks. Okay, and yeah, transponder. So let's go down here. We have actually, weirdly enough, we seem to have two transponders. At least it looks like this. There's also this TCAS thing, and I'm not quite sure because the TCAS thing is inactive. But we do have this here, so I can. They're both the same. Interesting. Okay, so let's put that on 2000. If I figure out how to do that. I think I need to do it like this. Okay, 2000, and we're going to go into alt mode, and that should also turn on. If you would be on Watsim or so, this should also turn on the mode Charlie. Okay, this perceived weather radar thing, I don't know. Let's have a look. Rose. So this must be the display. Is it? Let's see. So what are we going to change here? So flight director is on. This is the DTA, the bearing. Suppose def. Select. I'm not sure. Here we're selecting localizer 1. I found it. That's this. The select button gives you the GPS, because we want to fly GPS first, and second course, don't know, can't see that yet. But I can switch to localizer then for the ILS approach, and I can switch to GPS for having nav. Cool. Okie dokie. So let's move this up a little bit. And what I didn't know is you can actually get the flight plan into this lower part. I was looking for that. Now I found it. Here down here is supposedly the weather radar. So in theory we can put this on weather, and if we would have rain, in theory we should see something. In practice I'm not sure that we have a weather radar in this, but I need to read this. Maybe they have, maybe they don't. I can't really say. Alright, there's one unfortunate thing. It's great that we can put out the displays, but spot what's missing. We're missing the altitude, and we're missing the speed, and we're missing the vertical speed. So that's a bit unfortunate. What I can do though is I can put the speed back, at least I can try and put the speed back into, where's the speed back? I can't see it. It doesn't move, it seems. So I can try and move this. No, it doesn't. Aha, the hardware does not move the speed back, so I need to do it like this. So I can put this onto 140 for sort of the climb out. And yeah, don't forget, this aircraft does not have an auto throttle. You need to be aware of where your engines are at all times, and you need to watch your speed, and that's why this is a little bit unfortunate, because having the displays is great. Not being able to see the speed, it would have been really great if that would be visible somehow, because then I could, for approach for example, I could use this view, which is fantastic, but unfortunately it only gives me not all the information. So I actually need to pull back to this position here in order to be able to see how fast I am, and so on. Now I could probably do this with some external display, but it's a pity. It would have been great if somehow we would have had some indication of speed and altitude and vertical speed, because that would really be helpful if you want to use this as an external display. Anyway, again, that's just complaining. Let's not complain, because we can work around it anyway. Okay, let's go. Frames, by the way, about 30 on my system. You know, my specs, they are again will be in the description, and also on my channel description. So let's do a very, very quick kind of before takeoff checklist. So we've got flaps in position 7, and we've got the CTOT on, the flight director is on, we have set the heading, we have set the initial altitude, and I'm going to show you in a moment how you activate the autopilot. Yeah, let's see. Oh yeah, and we need to actually define what horizontal mode. Now I'm going to activate nav for horizontal mode, and I'm going to activate climb for vertical mode. And look at this. If I press climb one time, I get 140 climb. If I press it again, I get 160 climb. That's sort of the medium setting. And if I press it again, I get 180, which is the high setting climb. And if I press again, it's off. And if I press again, it's 140. Basically what that means is the aircraft will attempt a vertical attitude to reach a vertical attitude, which keeps the speed at 140 and will try and climb at 140. You need to make sure that you have enough power, or not too much power, in order to hold the attitude that you want. So it's a bit like the IAS mode, which is basically hold a particular speed, but then try with bringing the nose up and down, try and reach that speed. You have to make sure that your engine parameters are not out of sync with this. So if you have too much power in an IS climb, you would get actually pretty high climb rates. If you want less, then you need to reduce your power. If you're descending, you need to make sure that you bring the power back as far as possible, so that you're not accelerating too much. Stuff like that. Okay, so this is kind of a IAS mode with steps, with already defined steps, and that's actually also in the real aircraft, as far as I know. Right, let's go. I'm bringing the throttle levers into the fully forward position, and we're going to take off in and around 110, something a bit over 110. We should start lifting the nose up, which is about now. So I'm pulling, and the aircraft comes up. I'm bringing in the gear, and I'm following the flight director, trying to get these two matched. And the thing is, it will try now and keep 140 in the climb. So in theory, if we follow the flight director, we should actually be climbing at and around 140. So it's actually bringing the flight director up a bit, because we are slightly faster. So now we need to come down again, and I'm going to turn on the autopilot now, which is actually down here. What you need to do is first you bring the yaw damper, and then you keep pressing here, so that it takes a wee moment, because it does a self-test. And if it hasn't done the self-test, and now in theory, because we have nav mode and I thought we had the source, we should actually be flying to our first waypoint, and I think this does not look like it's going to do that. So let's see, where is the flight plan here? Oh, yeah, we got a little problem, and the problem is that yeah. So let's do 2. Or let's maybe do 3 already, because this is already messed up big time. So I'm going to direct to 3, enter. Yeah. Sometime while I was actually entering my flight plan, what it actually did is it put the end airport as the next director, and I should have checked before we finished this whole setup. I should have actually checked that we have Lima Victor 200 as the next waypoint. I forgot to do that, and that's why we are having this little issue here now. But no problem, we seem to be back. Now let's do the range. Yeah, so this is the closest range. Can we somehow, what is it doing? This is weird. And the other thing is, it has actually gone through the altitude, so the climb mode does not stop. So I'm now going into alt, and this is another thing I need to be aware of. I need to be careful about. Now I need to figure out how I'm getting. So there was probably a way to get. Can we actually? click once. I'm not sure how I did it, but now we are in hundreds. Okay, so we've messed up, but at least we're following the route now, but we're far too high. And we're not yet descending because I haven't actually given him a... so there is a VNAV, and so in theory there is a VNAV. I actually didn't see that. Let me see. What does that do? So if I go to flight plan, okay, so VNAV would work if these flippin' altitudes would match. Since we haven't got that, because we have these strange altitudes, I'm pretty sure that would not work out well. So let me quickly enter something here. Not exactly, and it forgot all the settings that I did before, and we have LAA back in here. It has modified my flight plan again. Yeah. Okay. So let's put in remat again. And let's put this on 2600. Enter. Let's put in 5000 again here. Enter. And 5000 again. Enter. And hope. I really hope that this is now it. Yeah, okay, looks like it's doing what it's supposed to do. We haven't yet been climbing, and we are far too fast, because obviously I haven't watched now with all this going on. And you see how quickly things go wrong if you don't watch out. So I'm going to put this on 200. And what I'm going to do is, once it is at 200, I'm going to initiate the IAS mode. And then we're going to try and descend again. So I think we can turn the autocorson off. Yep. And now I'm going to activate IAS mode. I'm going to take the power away. I'm reducing the power, and what it's supposed to do is actually pitch down. And it is very slow at doing that, so you will actually lose quite a bit of speed prior to it actually going down, and then it's overreacting a little bit. So we're going to get a really hefty descent until it reaches the speed again, and yeah, it can be a bit of a yo-yo. It can be a bit of a yo-yo. So we're up again, speed goes down again. So I had this before, yeah, I was going kind of up and down and up and down, as I say, yo-yo effect. And as you can see, we lose quite a bit of speed. That's why I'm not really using this this mode. Actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to set it on vertical speed. And I'm going to try and set a vertical speed that is not running us into the ground. Anyway, we are at 5000, so we should be leveling off, but yeah. So vertical speed isn't exactly working the way I would expect it either. There is also a vertical sync knob, so in theory when you click that, it should take whatever vertical speed you had at the moment when you press this button, and it should then try and hold that vertical speed. And it looks as if it's doing that now. So here we got now altitude alert, and I'm not sure that this aircraft will stop. I thought it did, but as we have seen, the climb mode didn't stop at 5000. So we're going to watch this and check out what happens. In the meantime, by the way, there should be in the real aircraft we have actually a heading sync button down here. We don't have that here. The heading sync button would basically, when you press it, Oh, oh, you can press it here, and then it synchronizes the heading. Nice. Okay, they've done that here. Okay, that's cool. See that? It's a bit easier than to synchronize your heading. So, looks like in this mode we have actually stopped at 5000. And speed-wise, yeah, we can bring up a little bit the power so that we reach 200. I would like to fly at 200. You need to really learn how to handle this aircraft. It takes a bit of getting used to how much power do you have to apply, how quickly does it react, which mode works and which one doesn't. So the IS mode isn't really cutting it here in this aircraft in Carenado. It just doesn't work properly. It's such a huge circulation here around the vertical speed or the speed. It's just not. I don't want to use it, so I've stopped using it because it doesn't really work. My first flight was a bit all over the place until I learned that IS mode doesn't cut it. If you know that, and I would guess that now if I would activate IS mode, now that everything is stable, let's see what happens. You see, although we are actually at the speed and we haven't changed the power, it should not pitch up, okay? But it does. It pitches up and it loses the speed. So IS mode is not working. It's as simple as that. So let's go back to vertical speed mode. And let's try and return to 5000. I'm going to bring up the speed again to 200 because I would like it to fly at 200 knots. We are at SONAP almost, and there is no shortcutting here, so ugly display though, but it properly flies to where it should. So we're now at 200. Let's try and not exceed this, so I'm going to take the power back again. I've got to watch the speed. And now you see why it would have been great if they somehow would have had the speed here also in this display, because it is so important. The altitude is not so bad. The vertical speed is okay, but the speed is very important because you need to constantly watch it. Therefore, it would have been great if the display could have also been brought out, you know. But it isn't. So we're almost there. Should be starting the turn any moment. Let's synchronize that heading again. Yeah, nice aircraft. Really nice aircraft. This, by the way, is Orbix, FTX Global, Europe, and Germany South or North, and Vectors. So it's the whole shebang of Orbix, Europe scenery, and Germany sceneries that you can get. We're slowing down a little bit, so I'm adding some power. And you just need to get used to roughly where you need to have your power in order to hold a certain speed. So we're now turning. good. Yeah, we have both navigation displays now. You can have it here, you will also always have it here as well. But obviously it's a little bit more useful if you don't have to open two displays. By the way, you can turn this off if you don't need it. And I'm guessing that this is also where the weather radar should show up, I guess. I'm wondering. So if I go on radar, yeah, so this is supposed to be the weather radar. Since we don't have weather, I wonder actually. So let's try that. Let's go to weather, and let's pick some not so nice weather, like this here. Can we see anything? We have rain. Yes, we do have rain. In theory, we should see something. Yeah, I can't really say. Maybe we're still missing something here when it comes to the settings. Let's have a look. So we are in weather mode, TGT, gain, max, tilt, down. It's not doing anything. Not really. Not that I can see, yeah. So I'm not sure that we have weather radar in this one here. So I'm going to go back to the nice weather, which is the clear skies, building storm, fair weather. That was the one that I had before. And now here's another thing, and I realized the same thing happening in the Fokker as well, on the Fokker 50. Somehow you are following the route, but the FMC doesn't seem to detect the change. So we're basically now going towards SOP 2. So what I can do is I can oh no, hang on. SOP 2 is 7, so enter. I can put this in, and now this is again, but my experience is that it will probably not switch. So at least in the Fokker I had that same thing happening. FMC and what we see here and route, they didn't really follow suit. And that is one of the things that I said at the beginning, that the quality in visuals is fantastic with Carenado. When it comes to these kind of things, it is, I would call it sloppy. I would call it not much attention to detail, not much. They do sort of the minimum so that you can use it, and then they don't seem to care. That's kind of the impression that I get. It's not important to them, and somehow having such a mess, you know, of an FMC that doesn't follow the route, and VNAV that probably isn't working, although you can select it. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'm doing something wrong. Could be, and in that case, sorry if I have misrepresented this, but somehow I'm not exactly best friends with this FMC. It's good to have it so that at least you could put in a route, but I'm not relying on it. So I'm actually doing my own thing with this, and I'm always watching. I learned to watch with these aircraft and the FMC, because I had some really weird things happening in the Fokker 50. Okay, one thing we need to do before we align with the ILS is, let's not forget that we need to switch. That happened to me also a couple of times in X-Plane. I forgot to switch the source and was wondering then why we wouldn't follow the ILS. Yep. So frequencies, let's quickly check. 115.50, 110.70. Okay. Trying to remember now where we would see the DME readout for this. By the way, this is the compass magnetic here. Okay. Oh, we still have the flaps. I thought I had brought the flaps up. I thought I pressed that button. Maybe I didn't. Or maybe I wasn't in the simulator because it's a key, and if I'm not in the simulator, the key wouldn't actually apply. That's probably what happened. So we are past SOP2. We need to now get down to 2600. So I'm going to bring this to 2600 now, and we're going to yeah, so how am I going to do this? I'm going to go into vertical speed mode, but that doesn't help me. I'm first going to pitch down. No, I can't. So let's try this here. Let's pitch down. Vertical speed, let's pitch down. And we're going to take the power back. And we need to really get down now, because otherwise we're going to have some trouble with the ILS, and we need to get slow. So I'm going to take back the power completely. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to synchronize the heading. Where's the heading? I'm going to synchronize the heading. I'm going to switch into heading mode, and I am going to switch the source to localizer, and I'm going to arm the approach. And we can see now how we're getting slower, which is good. I'm going to try and stay in and around 160. 160. So, I'm not sure why we're seeing localizer 2 at the top. It's a bit weird. I'm a little bit confused here. Okay, pause. There's something wrong. Let's see. We have 110.70, so bearing. Yeah. Deviation, localizer 1. I am not sure, but we are not. I think we should see already second course. Okay. Why are we not seeing this? I don't know. Let's turn off the nav mode, but it doesn't show us the ILS. So for some reason it doesn't seem to have a reception of the ILS, which is not really helpful. I am on localizer 1 here. Let's check. I guess one of the needles is the VOR, so let's see.
2500.
Yeah, so you can already see how the ILS is coming in, because this is VOR1. So we do have some reception, but for some reason we don't see the glide slope. Why don't we see the glide slope? What is wrong? Let's see, the course. Where is the course? Is here. Did I not put that on 272? I don't know. I might not have. So I'm going to change this to 272. 272. Not that I can really see it. I can see it on my hardware. Here, down here it is now. Okay, you can see it's 272. But I can't see the localizer. So why can I not see the localizer? What have I done wrong that I can't see the localizer? Okay. I would guess that that is actually, but I can't see the glide slope either. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to use the heading mode, and I'm going to change the heading a good bit so that we at least somehow re-intercept the localizer. I'm going to bring out the flaps first stage. There's the airport. So we have actually gone past the airport. I can still not see the glide slope. We are at DME 8.1. We are actually descending. I'm not sure why it is actually descending. So let's stop at this altitude. So it has actually been descending on something, and now let's see, nav. Nope. Have I not been on localizer 1? So what is this display down here? Nav 1. I think I have been in the wrong select. So when I turned select again, and now we can see everything. Okay, you never stop learning. So somehow the select was wrong, and the indications are a little bit. I think you need to look here. So, whoa. So it's now trying to follow the glide slope. Oh, bloody hell. Yeah, right. Okay. So, okay, I turned the autopilot on again, and this thing is all over the place. Let's turn it off again.
Sync rate.
And gear out.
Sync rate.
Yeah. So next time I need to do the correct select. Obviously I haven't. So all these indications, I was wondering because it's hardly readable, but it says actually something like nav 2 up there, and I was wondering about that. And it seems that this doesn't. This here is of no consequence. Okay, when it says log 1 here, it is this up here that is of consequence. Okay, landing lights on. So I'm not sure what this thing here is now. It's like a vertical deviation. I have no idea what that means.
$300. 200.
Decision height. Not sure where the decision height is. I haven't seen the value. Ah, there it is. It's decision height 200. Okay.
100.
It's in the lower right of the EADI. There's also radar altitude 50, 40,
40.
30.
30.
So a little bit long here, the landing, I know.
20. 10.
Okay. And in order to get to the reverse, I use the F2 key. And we need to find out where we are. F1 to bring it back into the idle position, sort of throttle, and here we go. Okay, let's bring up the flaps. And slow down. There's no auto brake, by the way. You need to do the braking yourself, or well, I actually use the reverse and let it run out. On a shorter runway, obviously you would use the brakes. Okay, and there we go. Okay, so yeah. I'm somewhat sure that if I would have got it right with the selecting, if that would have been a bit more intuitive, then I guess we would have had a normal ILS approach, probably. So I have to try that again. But this is try and fly, and the way I am is that I'm going to show you what I experienced, because that's the idea of my videos here, is that you see if things go wrong as much as you see what goes right. And if I do mistakes, well, then I've made a mistake. If I haven't done a mistake, then I haven't done a mistake, then something is fishy. Let's quickly go around here. Okay. So, parking brake on. And going to turn off, also turn off the transponders, which are somewhere down here. Let's put that on standby. And what do we need to do? So I'm going to turn off strobes. Yeah, it's off. And yeah, in order to now turn stuff off, you basically bring down the levers here, and the axis only stops here. So if you want to bring it down, unfortunately you can't drag them down, so this doesn't work. So what I do is I use the control F2, and that moves them both down and actually turns off the engines. Okay, so actually the landing was easy. Hand flying it was great, absolutely no problem there. The looks is fantastic, there's no doubt, and the rest is just the usual. Yeah, as I say, slightly, in my personal opinion, okay, in my personal opinion, half-hearted approach to certain aspects of this aircraft, and not only of this aircraft. It's the very basic FMC. You need to really watch out what you have set up there. The fact that it doesn't follow the route, or not always follows the route. It doesn't detect when you have actually reached a waypoint, because I think that are you going to stop, or do I need to do something to make it stop? Huh? See, they're still milling here. I don't think this is right. Let me see. I don't think they're off. So we've got them in the off position. But they're still spinning. Yeah. I don't think this is right, but this is what happens if I bring up the... I don't think the engines are actually off. It looks almost as if they are still on because we haven't somehow we haven't managed to get the ignition off. So in theory, fuel off should mean that the engines come spool down and are off. Doesn't seem to work like that here. Somehow. What happens if I turn the ignition off? See? Still windmilling. Or is that the wind? I don't think so. Maybe it is, but I think they should have stopped by now. What happens if I do this? Nope. Okay. Oh yeah. So we are. Let's bring them back again into the position here. No, they're still on. Okay, let's not drag this out too long. So it is a lovely aircraft. It's really good looking. It flies okay. Okay. Its sound and all is good. Is fine. It really looks great. I mean, there's no doubt about that. If you look out here, this is we have a couple of liveries here for actual operators of this aircraft type. This is an Australian one, but there's also a Dutch and a Scottish and some others. So you get a good choice here for liveries. And I'm pretty sure, if not already available, very soon we're going to see lots of freeware liveries popping up at the usual places. It is flying very good. The autopilot is, in German we would call that gewöhnungsbedürftig. You need to get used to it. So at the beginning, as I did now, you're probably going to do some mistakes, but you get used to it. And actually, I don't mind flying this aircraft manually or not using the automatics as much. The IAS mode, I don't think I've done anything wrong. The IAS mode is just simply not working properly. So having a yo-yo like that is not what normally an IAS mode should do. Yeah, so you know that, and therefore I'm not using it. I usually do a combination of vertical speed mode or vertical sync and adjusting the power so that I try and stay in the speed range. When it comes to following a route, just remember that you need to pre-select your first waypoint. So if you have entered your position, go to the DTO, enter the first waypoint after your airport, and make sure that this is in this magenta color, because otherwise it happens what we just had at the beginning. It basically went to the wrong airport, to the wrong waypoint. It wanted to go back to the airport basically, because this is our route. Okay, so if you remember that, you should probably be okay when it comes to following your route. Yeah, and don't ask me why we couldn't get the arrival, the runway. It worked the first time round, it didn't work the second time round. No idea why. It's just the way it is, but it wasn't that bad because I know this route, so I have no problems flying there manually. So, should you buy this? Should you not buy this? I think you're not doing a big mistake if you buy this aircraft. I think you're getting a lot of aircraft for your money. Carenado aircraft aren't exactly cheap, but they aren't that expensive either. And yeah, if you know the little weaknesses and the little kind of strange things that are in here, you can work around them. But it is a beautiful aircraft. It flies well, and so I haven't actually regretted buying it. And I don't think you do a mistake if you get this one. As usual, you know, I'm not associated with any of these add-on makers. I'm definitely not associated with Carenado. I think that could be clear by now. But yeah, I don't think I did a mistake getting this. I'm now going to try and find out how I can stop these props of milling around here. Alright, that's it. Until next time.